Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
It is 11:01, and it is the first Lock Shop ever following a Detroit Lions playoff victory. And I'm very excited to be here. Pat Gregoire in for Huss today. Huss is somewhere between Kansas City and Winnipeg on his way back, but he's stopping to watch football because that's what D-Gens do, right, Patty?
The hustler himself. I wonder if he's thawed out from
Probably
that game.
not.
Man, that looked cold.
Yeah, that looked really cold. I would, you know what, by now he's probably thawed out. He had a full day of barbecue yesterday. Like, he's probably feeling pretty good right now. And the original plan was to drive back and then stop tonight, watch the one game, but now he's got two games, so I'm assuming the journey will be denied along the way. Jake from Coolbet just tweeting out, my girlfriend just asked me why they don't play the Bills game in Pittsburgh. I'm afraid I failed, folks. That's a tough one.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That is tough. But I mean, you mentioned already, we got to give you your flowers. I have to apologize here. They did it. The craziest stat that I saw, or the craziest tweet that I saw, the last time that the Detroit Lions won a playoff game, you couldn't text your friends to say, congrats, the Lions won, because text messaging was not invented. Unbelievable. What a game last night. The atmosphere was college-like. It was loud. People crying after the game. It was truly awesome. Just happy for you, happy for the Lions, a little bit happy for myself because yes, the Lions won. You're happy. And I know you're kind of happy as well here because the Rams did cover.
I needed it after missing so badly on the Dolphins. I mean, for Lock Shop purposes, I needed the Rams to cover, and they certainly did. Now, with that being said, I mean, I was in full-blown panic mode when they were driving in the fourth quarter. They're thinking at worst there's probably a go-ahead field goal coming along the way. There was the missed pass interference call that should have been called. Then they took that penalty, pushed themselves out of field goal range. And as soon as the Lions got the back, I will say this calmness kind of came over me. And I was just like, you know what? Like, I think they're going to get the job done here. Even at the end of the first half, when that penalty went the other way against the Lions, and then the Rams just didn't call time. Like, they just were like, whatever. It was waste. Like, they had 50 seconds left. And they just didn't do anything. That was really bizarre to me.
I was really confused. I kind of thought that Dan Campbell maybe made a mistake initially when he accepted that penalty, allowing two chances for Sean McVay and this offense to go. They go deep to Puka Nacua, doesn't convert, and then they punt the ball. Like, I could not believe it. That must have been a huge sigh of relief for Lions fans and for Dan Campbell. And I agree, that one throw by Goff, it was like, okay, the Lions aren't going to Lions here. This team is different. They got it done. And again, can't be happier enough for them. But what a game. What a game. Like, each team scoring on every single possession they had in the first half. Then the defense kind of settled in the second. We had everything, especially considering the first couple of games we saw were not really very competitive at all. It was a great way to cap off a great Sunday or a great weekend leading into these two games here on Monday.
You can text us anytime at 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999, or, of course, you can slide into the nasty chat as well. We do have two games to get to today, and we're going to recap all four from yesterday. This text is in from Beef Nips today. It says, when the Lions marched down the field on the opening drive with 0 third downs, I was nervous. McVay needs to be questioned for his red zone play calling, which is true. I mean, the red zone, the Rams, if they could have taken care of business inside the red zone, they would have won this football game. The one when they were on the 6 and they threw the ball 3 times, man, that just didn't make any sense. When they actually had ran the ball, they ran the ball extremely well over the latter part of the season, and it ran the ball pretty well, I thought, in the football game too. I was a little surprised they went completely away with it in that spot.
Yeah, that was really surprising. And McVay, again, I don't like to question him too much considering what he's been able to accomplish in his career. But yeah, a few really, really boneheaded decisions, galaxy branding, if you will, just made it seem like he was trying to outthink Dan Campbell instead of just doing the right thing. And you mentioned Kyron Williams. I think he had 61 yards. So the Lions, though, we talked about this, that their run defense was actually pretty strong, and they were going to be susceptible in the pass. So the fact that you don't even try to hand it off to Williams at one point to try to stuff it in, super, super confusing there. But take the win, take it and run with it. And maybe this Lions team can run with it. You know, you get over the hump. You accomplish something that you haven't done in over 30 years. And let's be honest, man, it was kind of tongue in cheek when we were talking about it a few weeks ago about how as long as the Lions can get home field pretty much all the way until the NFC Championship, like their path to there is really strong. And once you get there, who knows? I know the 49ers are an absolute wagon, but once you get there, anything can really happen, can it not?
I definitely can. And that's why, and I was more worried this week about the Rams than I will be about either the Eagles or the Bucks next week. So
Agreed.
I really like the spot that they're in. And then, you know, it's one outdoor game in San Fran for a chance to go to the Super Bowl for the first time ever. So I'll certainly take those odds right now. We'll set up that Bucks game as we work our way over. We kind of dove into all of this on Friday's episode, but certainly, you know, some things change. Obviously, a lot has changed in this Bills game that we'll get to. But Pat, let's just slide back and start with the Houston Texans. I mean, we were all pretty on board with the Browns. Now, with that being said, when we were breaking this down on Friday, I did say that earlier in the week, and I think you agreed with me, earlier in the week I was on the Browns and I saw the line moving towards the Texans. You start to dive into it a little bit, and I was this close to being convinced to ride with the Texans, but I thought the Browns D would be able to step up and make a play, and turns out they couldn't make a play to keep them in that football game at any moment.
The two things that scared you and I off, or I shouldn't say scared us off, but the two things that were red flags that should have scared us off from the Browns was you brought up how that Browns defense just doesn't travel and how poorly they play on the road. That reared its ugly head in this game. And the other, I brought it up saying that this could be a big moment for CJ Stroud. We always see these rookie quarterbacks or their first time playing in a big game in the postseason tend to struggle or have to find their footing. I mean, he didn't struggle at all. He was unbelievable from the get-go. They actually were able to take him out of this game and give him a rest, considering how easily he was working there. So for me, I mean, this Texans team, man, even if they don't accomplish the ultimate goal or get to the AFC Championship, if this is the end of the road for them here, this team is going to be scary for many years to come. The defense looked great. You know, is that also the fact of the matter that the Browns, maybe their Cinderella season kind of struck midnight and Joe Flacco came back down to reality? Yeah, probably plays a little bit of a role. But if you're the Texans, man, you were picking first overall. You had the first overall draft pick. You end up trading it away, making your team stronger. First-year head coach, or second-year head coach, I should say. The future is bright down in Houston. And I'm not saying whoever they have to play the next game, they can't get it done. But if this is the end, Texans fans got to be happy, because in a conference with the AFC where there's so many studs at the quarterback position, I think you got to put Stroud right up with a lot of those guys, if not this upcoming year, in the years to come.
Is it going too far to say that? I don't think this is the case, especially after what we saw in this playoff debut. I mean, and there's a lot of good quarterbacks in this league. Don't get me wrong. Is he like a top 7 guy next year? I don't know how you wouldn't say he's a top 10 guy heading into the season. Like, you know, we'll get around to July and August and the magazines will come out and previews will come out. I have to think that CJ Stroud is viewed as a top 7 or 8 quarterback going into the season next year.
I'm 100%. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a top 5, top 3 MVP odds favorite.
Yeah.
When the lines open next year, I really do, because you feel if he doesn't get injured and the team doesn't kind of take that quarter season or third quarter seasons drought where, things kind of started to fall off for them, I think you could make a case that he could find himself, maybe not as MVP, but in that conversation. I totally agree. And it's, now the big thing with the National Football League is you got to be able to at least win or get to the Super Bowl while your quarterback is still on his rookie deal. They're going to have an opportunity now where they can maybe go out, get another target. Maybe they go out and get a legitimate number one running back. Maybe they improve their defense. Like, they have cap space now to go out and get other guys because CJ Stroud is on that rookie deal. It's massive. Very similar to what you saw like with the Buffalo Bills. That's the big question. Has the window closed for them, or is it going to close soon because Josh Allen is going to be on his, or is on his,
Joe Burrow
deal.
pre-deal, right? Like that same type of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly it. And a lot of these teams that don't get that done, they feel like those are wasted years because, of course, you got to pay the quarterback. It's the most important position in the game. But if you find a stud who's going to be completely outplaying his deal, that's where you got to cash in. We saw the Chiefs do that. That's where they were able to do it before Mahomes, got his big payday. That's what you got to do. And I think the Texans really have an opportunity here, especially considering this, at the start of the year, we're thinking, well, this is going to be Trevor Lawrence and the Jags division for a long time coming. Man, the narrative is flipped on its head. And yes, I think the Jags will be better next year. But you got to give full credit to this Texans team, to DeMeco Ryans and what they've been able to do.
What happens with Cleveland next? I mean, they were injury riddled this year, but you have to like kind of what they built through that season. What would the expectations be, do you think, for the Browns next year then?
Well, I that's a tough question because when you're dealing with the Cleveland Browns, they're a passionate fan base. Despite all the pain they've gone through, they always have high expectations for their team. They always seem to win the offseason in their eyes. But, this is a year that if you told them at the start of the year, we'd be playing with our fourth string quarterback. Oh yeah, that quarterback's Joe Flacco, who was on the couch. We've lost Nick Chubb. Our defense, historically good as they are, there was just so many things that went wrong with this team, yet they found a way. And I think the one thing you can hang your hat on is, yes, the defense, although on the road they struggled, they still were a very strong defense. And what we saw them do at home was historic. But the big thing for me is the faith that you have to have in Kevin Stefanski going forward, for him to be able to keep this group together, for him to be able to rally the troops and allow this team to make the playoffs in a year that, even when they have all the pieces together and they feel like this is the team to get it done, we've seen them fall flat on their face. Instead, the narrative is switched, the script is flipped, and all of a sudden now you're looking at this Browns team saying, like, what if they had Joe Flacco for the full season, which is crazy to say? What if Nick Chubb doesn't get hurt? Like, where is this team? I don't think, they're probably a better seed in not having to go up against the Texans. And I honestly think that this is a team going forward. You have to be disappointed, but at the same time, you're playing with house money. There's no reason the Browns should have been in this spot.
Exactly. Has to be viewed as a success. 100%. And then you'll see where you go for next year. This could have been a write-off season for so many teams in the similar spot, but it wasn't for them. So that's a major step in the right direction. We don't have to spend a ton of time on the Chiefs and Dolphins. Tidy win for the Chiefs, 26-7. Obviously, Huss would really like to dive into this here. He'll be back on Wednesday. But the one thing that I found somewhat interesting, I talked about it with Mike Tanier a little bit earlier on in the Nielson show today. All year long, we talked about Kansas City. They have Travis Kelce. Who else are they going to get involved in the offense? Like, do they have a wide receiver that can step up? Well, Rice was really good in this game. 8 catches, 130 yards, and a touchdown. How much does that one guy in that one position maybe change the way we view the Chiefs offense a little bit moving forward here in the playoffs?
I think it certainly has to give some hope that this Chiefs can turn on the switch, and they did turn on the switch. And mind you, yeah, it was only 26 points. But the Dolphins defense, despite being banged up, I mentioned it on Friday, they are a lot better than what people want to give them credit for. But Rashee Rice, what an unbelievable playoff debut for him. 130 yards, 8 receptions, had a touchdown. I think it was one of, if not the best playoff debut by a rookie receiver until Puka Nacua took the field the very next day. So that was obviously a short-lived, but he is now obviously, it's gonna garner a lot of attention. But I think also when you think Travis Kelce, he obviously does not look like himself. He's still at 71 yards though, and I think that the fact that you have Rashee Rice will probably garner a lot of attention. That will open up a little more space for Kelce. The bigger thing for me though is Isaiah Pacheco being able to get going and really, really bullying that defensive line and just that defense for the Dolphins. Mind you, it might get tougher as the road progresses, but going up against the Ravens. But the fact that they're able to run the ball, Patrick Mahomes doing Patrick Mahomes things, it just seems like in the playoffs he unlocks that dual threat capability and is willing to run the ball more. Again, it's a small sample size in a Dolphins team that I think we all knew was fraudulent. But you got to be happy. I'm sure Huss and all those folks freezing their tails off were a lot happy to see at least one guy emerge as the target, because halfway through that season, man, you were wondering, okay, they got to go out and get someone. They didn't. They trust the process, and it's looking like maybe that process is going to come to fruition, at least for a little bit of a deep playoff run.
Dustin Nielson, Pat Gregoire with you here on the Lock Shop today, brought to you by great partners over at CoolBet. If you want to sign up for an account, use the code LOCKSHOP when you do. You can hit us up in the nasty chat. You can text us at 780-218-9999. If you have any plays that you really like in the Buffalo game, we're going to set up the Buffalo game. Field conditions there are actually looking pretty good right now after they've taken the tarp off. It looks nice. I know people have been looking at that line as a snow game, but it doesn't look like there's going to be any snow. It looks beautiful there right now. So we'll talk about how that's going to impact things. But we have to get to Dallas and the Green Bay Packers coming out of yesterday afternoon. And I know, the demise of the Dallas Cowboys always comes to the forefront, but I think we need to spend a lot of time praising what we saw from the Green Bay Packers. We said going into that game, Dallas has had the number 1 offense in the league over the second half of the season, and the Green Bay Packers had the 4th best offense in the league. And the 4th best offense looked exactly like that. Jones was a monster. Jordan Love was great. Spread the ball around enough to get it done. And, the overall bigger story here will be the Cowboys, but the story coming out of that game, I'm sorry, man. To me, it was Jordan Love in his playoff debut doing what he did. He looked amazing.
He looked phenomenal. He made the big throws. That I can't remember exactly which touchdown it was because there was just so many of them. But he had one throw where it was off the back foot, which it feels like Jordan Love throws so many nice touchdown passes off the back foot, which you talk to quarterback coaches, you talk to guys that played the game. Like, that's just something that you don't want to see your quarterback do. But with the arm strength, the arm talent he has the capability to do that. He finishes with 3 touchdown passes, over 75% completion, and he made those big throws when he needed. And I totally agree. Don't get me wrong. I love clowning on the Dallas Cowboys. It is fun. It is great. And to be honest, it is completely well-deserved. But we got to, give a little respect to the Packers here, because what they were able to do yesterday to dismantle that defense, because everyone wanted to say, including myself, well, the Cowboys, yes, as fraudulent as they are, that defense is still legit and they play so well at home. Well, they proved us wrong there. And again, I think we were all on the Packers anyways. I even sprinkled a little bit on the money line, but let's not kid ourselves. I don't think we thought it was going to be that big of a beatdown, but just from top to bottom, the Packers came to play. They had the right game plan, and it just felt like, once the Cowboys were punched in the mouth once, they had no game plan to back down, or they score a bunch of touchdowns in garbage time, but who really cares? Like that, the score in that was not indicative. That was all Packers all day long. And again, another team that really had no expectations heading into this season, got to be feeling like really well from themselves. And Matt LaFleur, I think, gained a lot more confidence in his fan base and probably his management group. The fact that he's turned this season around with, quote unquote, not really a lot to work with.
Cowboy in the nasty chat says, I didn't bet the Cowboys, but I lost 3 bet builder tickets with a CD Lamb anytime TD, plus 400, plus 1,000, and plus 1,100. That is, I mean, that's the one thing that, and this is why sports betting and gambling is gambling, because that's the one thing that you would have really liked going into that game. And he fed CD Lamb the ball quite a bit, but just could not find him in the end zone. Although CD almost hauled that one in, that crazy shot.
Oh my God!
If he would have somehow pulled that in and got his feet in, that would have been absolutely ridiculous. I had another buddy who was texting me yesterday. He goes, "I can't believe I missed on the CD anytime touchdown." That from a betting perspective, player prop perspective, CD not finding the end zone is one of the bigger surprises of the weekend.
Even if you would have told me what the final score was, I would have been like, well, I mean, CD definitely got at least 1, 2 touchdowns. Oh, nothing like that. I mean, that was definitely one of the big shockers. And again, one of the reasons why the offense didn't look great. And, again, I think Dak Prescott has to be scrutinized here for another just terrible performance in the postseason. I think you got to assume Mike McCarthy is done. They're going to have to bring someone else in. Like, you can't, and I know Jerry Jones is loyal, and he's loyal to a fault. He sat on his hands way too long before with previous coaches. He needs to make this happen, and needs to do it quick, because there are a lot of good coaches in the wings right now that you could pick up. How is Mike Vrabel not target number 1? Like, that's a complete culture change. A guy that's played a player coach, but he's still hard-nosed. Like, if I am Jerry Jones, I'm firing. I already fired Mike McCarthy, let's be honest, but I am flying my private bird out there, picking him up and putting a contract in his face and not allowing him to get off that private jet until he signs it.
The last 3 seasons here. Now he's been in Dallas for 4. 6-10 his first year, and then 3 straight 12-5 seasons. But they lost to the Niners in a wild card game. They lost to the Niners in the NFC divisional game, and then this year they lost to the Packers in the NFC wild card game. I mean, he's got 2 division titles in there, but at the same time, when you're 1-3 in the postseason for the Dallas Cowboys, man, you've had your shot. You've had 4 cracks at it. I just don't see how they bring him back next year, especially when we all just sit here every single time and go, I expect this from a Mike McCarthy team. It's just that would be insane to bring him back. They can't do it. There's no way.
No, they can't. They literally cannot. And again, Jerry Jones has done crazier things, but I think it comes to a point now, especially the fact that there are so many good options. Like, I don't know. It just can't happen. It can't come. Like, this has got to be it. And I think Vrabel's your target. There's other guys in there. I mean, I really wouldn't love to hear, like, I hear there's chatter of just, upgrading, promoting Dan Quinn, but like, we've seen what Dan Quinn's been able to do as a head coach. I don't think that's the move. I think it's got to be a culture shock, a culture change.
Yeah, you can't just promote from within after this again, right? You just can't.
No.
And you're right. We know what Dan Quinn is as a head coach. So
yeah. He is a great coordinator, phenomenal coordinator.
Yeah, because when he got hired as a head coach, there was a ton of hype last time around. Remember, they're like,
Absolutely.
"Oh my God, Dan Quinn." It won't be the same. I don't think you can do that. I don't think they would.
No. And on the topic, before we roll into any of these games today of bad beats, I had a bet builder ticket. Puka Nacua over 5.5 receptions, cash no problem.
Yeah.
Jahmyr Gibbs over 2.5 receptions, cash no problem. Aaron Donald 1 sack, missed out, couldn't get a sack, could not get a sack, and that is a huge reason because of how good that offensive line for the Lions played. Goff was untouched. Few times he got hurried, but man, Donald, he just looked like he looked slow. He couldn't get any pressure going. And that would have been a nice, I think it was like plus 300 would have been a nice ticket, but everything else cashed perfectly. And I mean, he really didn't even sniff it. So I can't even say it was a bad beat because he didn't really get that close.
Well, as you know, Jared Goff has been one of the most elusive quarterbacks in his career. That Detroit, I mean, the very first drive, that Detroit offensive line was just like, okay, you're going to have to stop what we want to do here, because they were phenomenal. The offensive line is just, it's ridiculous. It's
and they got a lot of heat. I can't remember the year that Sewell was drafted, but like when they took him early, they got a lot of heat for going with like the not sexy pick, and there were some other bigger names that they probably could have got. But look at now, he is, one of the best offensive linemen in the game. They built around that O-line, and man, like if you've got a good O-line and Goff, again, if he can sit in the pocket, have time, not have to run for his life, and he can step up in the pocket, make those throws, it just makes a world of a difference for a quarterback, and that's clearly the case here in Detroit with Goff.
Yeah, he ended up going 7th overall, right behind, what a run to start this draft, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle. So all those skill guys, and then the Lions went to the offensive line, followed by Horn, Surtain, Devontae Smith, and Justin Fields and then Micah Parsons rounding out the top 12 there. So that was a nice draft. And look, the Lions drafted really well again this year because they landed Jahmyr Gibbs. Laporte has been an absolute beast as well for them. So it's been exciting, and they got an offensive line, and the defensive line pretty good too. They're pretty good against the run. It's in the passing game where they can get torched, and we saw that a little bit last night. With that being said, last one on yesterday's games, Matthew Stafford is a freak. Like Stafford and the different arm angles. I mean, the guy is he's just such a brilliant quarterback. I was joking about it on our show earlier today. My emotions last night, obviously, with Detroit winning, I was very pumped up. But at the same time, I was the gif of not Triple H, Shawn Michaels looking at Flair and being I'm sorry, as if we had to keep pounding Stafford, and they did it, and he fought through a lot last night, man. Matthew Stafford just has more respect for me than anybody could ever have. Like, not just because of last night. He took 12 years of beatdowns with the Detroit Lions as well.
And that's why I think Lion fans were so scared, because every time he got hit, they knew he was going to pop back up. It pops into the tent. He comes out. Mind you, should he have been playing? Probably not. No. Who knows? We're not doctors. But that's been him his entire career, whether he's with LA, whether he's Detroit. He takes a beating, and he is one of the toughest son of a guns in the NFL. And to me, it's just like, as that storyline was playing out, it's just like, this would be just so damn fitting and so Lions, and heartbreaking that, Matt Stafford goes down and leads a touchdown drive in Ford Field. Like, but again, the way that it played up to it, it felt like that was going to happen. And then it just switched and it changed. And that's kind of the switching of the guard of the old Lions to the new Lions. This is a new team. This is a new franchise. It's remarkable. And I honestly, like, the path is there, man. The path is there. I know it's playoffs and you can't take teams for lightly, and there's no such thing as a look ahead game or a letdown spot, but remarkable. Kudos to the franchise and the fan base. And you mentioned the drafting, Brad Holmes. You got to give him credit.
Yeah, I think he got one of the game balls last night. Yeah.
As he should have, man. I was just going to say that was awesome to see him get recognized, but I think he's got to be one of the most underrated general managers in the NFL. Look at this roster he's been able to, and it's not just the top picks. Like, he's finding guys mid-round, later picks. He's just done a really good job building this team.
Let's get to a few bad beats that have trickled into the nasty chat. You can text us anytime during the Lock Shop oil stream, of course, coming up here as well. 780-218-9999. Richard Croft says, I lost a 9-player shot parlay because 97 cannot get more than 1.5 shots on goal on his birthday in Montreal. Richard, sorry to laugh, but that sucks, man. That's a tough one. You would have thought for sure Connor bangs out a couple of shots on his birthday hockey night in Canada in Montreal. Duck Dad says, Jaden Reed cost me a 6-legger bet builder. I hit on Jones and Pollard TDs, Lamb yards, Prescott and Love passing yards in that game. With that score, Reed getting blanked blew my mind. Tough one as well. That's why we call them bad beats. They're not good beats. They're bad beats. Mark is in it, says, lots of bad beats for me this weekend. almost broke even when I live bet the Bucks being down 6 in overtime, paying well. Thank you, Dame. Yeah, it was Dame time for the Milwaukee Bucks yesterday as well. That guy is absolute clutch and money. The Bucks will certainly be a tough out. All right, Pat, anything else from the NFL over the weekend, or should we move forward here?
Before we do, got to give the lock shoppers a big congrats and thank you for riding with me. Patty G's tees cashed, no problem at all. We had a bunch of tickets on that one. Chiefs to win, no worries. Packers plus 13.5, they won outright, and then the Rams plus 8.5. They didn't even need the tees there. So that was a little bit of a smaller number, as most teases are. I think it was plus 169 or plus 200, actually. I think it came up.
That's wins are wins, dude. Wins are wins.
And if there's a plus side beside it, it's a bonus. So, but again, thank you for everyone for riding. We'll have another Patty's G's tees for the next round. And I think I'm going to put together a primetime parlay. I refuse to put any pressure. I got enough pressure on me.
Exactly.
As you can see for the 4 o'clock game. But for the nightcap, I'll put some sort of parlay together in that.
Spency 5 cents. He says, I had McDavid over 1.5 points on his birthday, and he didn't hit. What a bum. Sports betting, right? It's absolutely an absolute treat. All right, let's dive into these two games today. We gave you our official picks on these on Friday when the Steelers were 9.5. They are now 10-point dogs on the road in Buffalo, where it has really been an adventure here over the last 48 hours. It's going to be extremely difficult to get to the game. It's an absolute mess in Buffalo. The field looks absolutely beautiful this morning. The stands, some of them are cleared off, but most of them are not. So you're either going to be sitting in snow or just standing in snow. So they're obviously going to have to dress well. But I wonder, when you look at the weather right now in Buffalo, how much is this game actually going to be impacted by the cold, I guess, because the snow, I haven't looked at the forecast, but it looked pretty, like the pictures I've seen looks like blue skies right now in Buffalo. So what are we expecting from this game here, Patty?
So from what I've heard, there is expected to have a little more snow. Obviously nothing too crazy, like it's not what we saw, but I think they're expecting some snow showers, freezing temperatures. And then of course it's Orchard Park, New York. So expect wind. Doesn't matter what time of the year is. They got that lake effect breeze. So expect to see some wind there. So I do think maybe not necessarily where it's like the quarterbacks literally can't throw the ball and it's just going to be handing off the entire game. I think we see the quarterbacks throw the ball a little bit more, and Josh Allen's a guy that has shown no fear to throw the ball in a tsunami before, so this will be nothing for him. But that being said, I still think it's your typical weather game. It's your typical, January in Buffalo. So, I don't think the Bills will lean on their passing game as much. Expect a heavy dose of James Cook. And again, I think that kind of plays into the hands of the Steelers because I think they're going to want to play take away, keep away, I should say. They're pretty good at taking the ball away as well. And the Bills are pretty good at doing it. So I think that probably will come into play as well. But again, I think if it was like a beautiful day and like no snow, warm, you would see this up probably closer to 13. The fact that it only moved half a point leads me to believe that it's still going to be a little bit of crummy weather, and we're not going to see, the Bills really try to air this one out.
Let's dive into some player props for this game. We dove into it a little bit with the Cool Bet Hotline earlier today on the Nielsen show. We got on a James Cook touchdown at plus 120 in this game. That number still sits at plus 120. Like I said, we're not expecting a crazy, crazy offensive battle between these two teams. But where are you at on player props for this game?
Well, I'll give out one for each team.
Okay.
And I like Jalen Warren over 3.5 receptions. Believe it or not, since Rudolph became quarterback one of this team, he actually is tied in targets amongst the entire team. So not just running back.
Wow.
He's getting the same target. Yeah, he's getting the same target share as some of these receivers. So, and he's hit this total in 5 straight games. And Buffalo's kind of struggled. They're in the bottom 10 in defending running backs against the pass. So I like him over 3.5 receptions. I kind of even like his total for yards, but I prefer the receptions at 3.5. The other one I like for the Bills, Khalil Shakir over 31.5 receiving yards. I've come on this program a lot and talked about how they need to get him more involved. They have no choice now with Gabe Davis out with injury. He's going to have to play a much bigger role. And when he was out last week, he had 105 yards on 6 receptions. He's cleared this in 3 of his last 5 games last 3 straight games and 5 of his last 7. I think he is such a game breaker. He's a guy that also could accomplish this in 1 reception, although I don't think they're going to really rely on the deep ball in this game. We saw him last game with a 47-yard reception. He's got that big play capability, so I really like him over 31.5 yards, but I also like his receptions as well. I love James Cook, so that was on my card as well. Didn't include it because you already talked on that, but if we're going to look to build a parlay, I would have no problem letting Jimmy cook.
Yeah, I think he's going to be heavily involved in the game today, so we like throwing that in there. I was just kind of throwing some of this stuff into Bit Builder. Absolutely love Warren over 3.5 receptions. If you're watching or listening to the Lock Shop right now and you've gone and checked out Coolbet, let us know about some player props that you want to throw in there as well. We already got the Cook TD in just as our hotline of the day pick earlier, but Josh Allen rushing touchdown fit the bill for you today, or do you think they leave that up to Cook in a situation like this?
Well, I think they're going to definitely want to lean on Cook. Yeah. But we've seen in games this year where if Cook can't get going early, they just completely they leave that alone, and then Josh becomes the lead rusher. Also, if they're in the red zone, Josh doesn't see anything. He's taken off, especially the last 5-6 weeks. He has shown that he is whatever that was with the old regime with Ken Dorsey, and they were really trying to take that out of his game. And it's back in his game now. He's not afraid to run the ball. Even look at that huge 30-yard run for that first down against the Dolphins. Like he's going to put his head down and try to score, try to get that first down. And so, a Josh Allen touchdown for sure. What's his rush yards at? I would even be considering that as well. Do we have that 39.5 at -120? That's -120 alone for 40 yards is a lot for a quarterback.
Yeah, that is a lot.
But again, especially when you're getting at a -120. Do we like – what else do we have here? Dalton Kincaid, again, 3.5 at -161, although it's in a parlay. Again, I think because no Gabe Davis, I think other guys are going to have to get involved.
Yeah.
I'm looking here.
Kincaid's yards 35.5. You said it was 3.5 for the
his receptions. Yeah, 3.5.
Yeah, because we got the 2 here. We got the Warren over 3.5. We got the Allen TD. Yeah, I don't hate Kincaid there over 3.5.
Yeah, we could go with Shakir receiving yards, although it's gone up to 34.5. When I was doing my research here, it was at 31. I still like it at 34.5. What's James Cook's as receptions 2.5 at +110, but we've already got him for a touchdown.
No, we got Allen for the touchdown. We got Allen. We could go Allen touchdown. What'd you say the Cook number was?
Cook's 2.5 receptions at +110. I kind of like that one as well. I could see them doing a little bit dip and dunking earlier on in the game. Is there anything from a Steelers perspective that we like as well? Like,
not really. I think my favorite play from the Steelers is the one that you already brought up in Warren. If we put Warren at over 3.5 catches, Cook over 2.5, and then a Josh Allen touchdown, and that'd probably be an okay number. Unless you wanted to go Cook touchdown and Kincaid over 3.5. You could do that as well.
What What does the chat think?
I don't know. Mark's saying do it with Kincaid.
What's Kincaid?
I feel like I'm feeling a Cook TD more than an Allen TD today.
I am too. I honestly, I am
one
too.
Of two
it was
ways,
on my card.
Right? So let's go Warren over 3.5 catches, Cook TD, and then Kincaid over 3.5 catches.
I like that.
Okay, let's go with that. Just keep the QBs out of it for now. So yeah, let's go there. There we go. All right, so let's lock that in.
And
go ahead.
And just so you know, Kincaid's last 2 games, he had 4 receptions for 87 yards against the Pats. And then against the Dolphins, he was an absolute animal, 7 receptions for 84 yards.
Yeah.
So I really like that. It wasn't on my card, but I was kind of sniffing.
Do you like
around.
the 35.5 better then?
I mean, just reading it off there, kind
it
of.
Seems like it, right? Like,
what's the number for 35? What do we
minus
get?
110? I feel a little bit better about that. He's been picking it up in big chunks, right? Okay, so let's flip the 3.5 to 35.5. Okay, there we go. Okay, so Kincaid over 35.5, Cook touchdown, Warren over 3.5 catches. That'll be our parlay for this Bills-Steelers game. Let's see here. Duck Dad says, I just paired the Bruins in regulation plus 100 with the Habs over 5.5 for plus 234. Of course, you can live bet those 5 games. There's 5 games already underway in the National Hockey League. If we can get some time here at the end of the episode, we'll take a look at some of those evening games tonight as well. You can text us on the Lock Shop anytime, 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999, or hit us up in the YouTube chat, which is usually hopping pretty good as well. Mark is in. It says Kincaid yards, baby. I do like that one. Big time, actually. So I feel good. I feel good. We talked ourselves into a good one here, I think, Patty. So that'll pop up in the exclusives page at some point before kickoff, I would assume.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if Jake is already cooking something up here for us.
There we go. All right. What about this other game? I mean, I like having 2 games today. I mean, I would have taken a triple header on Sunday as well, but I like the fact that we got a couple of games in the National Football League. I guess we can look at a little parlay here in the other game as well. Have any of your thoughts changed on this game since we spoke on Friday? The Eagles 3-point favorite on the road against the Bucs.
Not really at all. I just, again, it's one of those games where I mentioned it before, where the narrative's really on the Eagles and their demise, and for good reason. So although I am on the Bucs, like, I'm not in love with the pick, to be honest. Like, I think both teams are struggling, and I think Baker Mayfield's injury is kind of being more downplayed than we really think. The more I think about this one, I think my best bet from one of the main lines is under 43.5. I don't know how many points are going to be scored in this game. The Eagles have one of the worst red zone scoring offenses, despite the tush push. And the Buccaneers have, one of the best red zone defenses. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of points scored. The Eagles are struggling. So I kind of like under 43.5. And again, if I had to choose a size, I'd probably buy the 0.5 point and take the Bucs. But I think my official play for at least lock shop purposes was Buccaneers +3.
Yeah, I was with you on the Bucs +3 on Friday. Like I said at the time, though, don't love it. Did like the under. Probably still like the under. But there's definitely a parlay to be built in here somewhere. I'll throw Mike Evans' receptions into here. It's over 4.5 at -133. The guy's been targeted at least 5 times in all but 2 of the games so far this season. I would have to think that Baker Mayfield, going up against an Eagles defense that has allowed more passing yards than everybody in the league with the exception of the Commanders. Like, there are now, I mean, it's going to be weird to talk about the passing game when we're also feeling the under a little bit here. But I do think in this situation, Baker Mayfield will rely heavily upon Mike Evans, who's just a go-to guy for him. He's hit this number where it sits at 4.5. He's gone over in 9 of 17, which doesn't sound crazy good, but at the same time, he's been targeted a ton. So I like Mike Evans over 4.5 catches in this game. What are you looking at here, Patty?
I'll stick with the Bucks here for one of mine. I like Cade Otton over 24.5 receiving yards. The Eagles, their defense in general stinks, but they are awful at defending tight ends. The Philly defense have allowed 86 they've allowed 86 catches on 115 targets for 859 yards this season. Since week 8, they've allowed opposing tight ends to average 5.8 receptions for 57.3 yards. But in general, when you look at EPA, and I know some people like it, some people don't, they are dead last since week 9 in EPA per play, 31st overall. They stink. They're terrible. The defense has struggled. They are in so much trouble. And I tend to agree with you. I think they're going to heavily lean on the pass because the rush defense has been actually not too bad for the Eagles, and they can get to the quarterback. So I think Baker Mayfield, with him being banged up as well, he's going to, want to get rid of the ball quickly. The tight end is, options up the middle of the field. So I really like Otton over 24.5 yards. I also like a Jalen Hurts interception. He has been turning over the ball like crazy in the second half of the season. And we're getting it at even money at -110. So not much analysis going to that. I just see the number there, and I see a guy that is allergic to not turning over the ball right now. And the Bucs defense is pretty good at turning it over as well.
All right, so we got the Cade Otton over on the yards. We got the Evans over on the 4.5. You mentioned the Jalen Hurts INT. We could throw that in there. Is there anything else in the Eagles from a positive perspective that you might look at? Is there anybody you like? The one name that I would throw in there, and it's funny because his usage is hit and miss. But Gainwell right now, I think it's set at 1.5, and against the Giants, they lost 27-10. The 2 games prior to that, he was targeted 7 times, caught all of them over that 2-game stretch. You can get him at over 1.5 receptions in this game tonight. When you factor in the fact that Hurts is dealing with a little bit of a banged-up digit, I mean, could there be more check-down scenarios here for Jalen Hurts? And if that is the case, I think I like Kenneth Gainwell when the number's just sitting at 1.5. So I wouldn't feel too horribly throwing that into the mix. What else on the Eagles side of things?
You stole the other. So I had 3 plays for the Eagles. Yeah. It was the interception in that one there. Or sorry, 2 plays. It was the interception in that one there. I think Gainwell at 1.5. Nick Sirianni, man, like this is a huge prove it spot. They got to get creative. The offense has been just so predictable for the last 5-6 weeks. They got to do something different. And I know they have used Gainwell in the past, but I think they're going to have to get more guys involved. And like you said, Hurts' hand is absolutely mangled. So a little dipping and dunking, allow the rushing attack to really be more on Swift's shoulders, and then bring in Gainwell whenever you can, or have a dual back, and you're dipping it out over to Gainwell. So I really like it, especially it's at 1.5.
That's not asking too much, man. Yeah, that's not asking too much at all. All right, so Evans, if you're cool with that, over 4.5 catches. Otton on the over on the yards, and then Gainwell over 1.5 receptions. That'd be the little player parlay that we'll put together for the Bucs and the Eagles. You'll be able to find that one and the earlier one over in the exclusive section of Coolbet here early into the afternoon. Let's take a quick look. Anything else in the NFL before we just slide over to the NHL for a sec? Patty, anything else?
I think I'm going to go over field goals in Eagles Bucks because that's just what we do.
Yeah, prime time.
We do, but I mean, if there is one consistent with this Eagles team this year, it's been Jake Elliott. So I think, and with points coming at a premium, I think both coaches are not going to turn down field goal opportunities. So give me the over 3.5 field goals in that game.
All right, over to the National Hockey League. Games underway right now. Buffalo is leading San Jose. That was the earliest start of the day. That one started at 10 o'clock Edmonton time, noon Eastern. Buffalo is up 2-0 through 40 minutes there. The Devils and the Bruins are scoreless. The red-hot Vancouver Canucks leading the Blue Jackets 2-1 at the end of the first period. They are a -385 favorite on the money line right now. That total is sitting at 7.5. And if you like the Canucks to just grow on this lead and expand it, -1.5 on the puck line at -132 right now. The Panthers are leading the Ducks 2-1. That one at the end of the first. And the Seattle Kraken and the Pittsburgh Penguins are scoreless. The total in that one right now through 20 minutes is sitting at 4.5. Man, it is nice doing the lock shop while we've got actual NHL scores to lay out. That's a lot of fun.
It's amazing. It's awesome. And, you look at the Sabres game, it's end of the second. That one started at 12 Eastern here. And the Sabres always have a home game on MLK Day. And it's actually pretty awesome. And I guarantee you people are going to do it. They're going to go directly from the Sabres game, hop in the car, drive the freeway down to Orchard Park and watch both games. So that's awesome. But yeah, we got NBA games as well, NHL games going on right now. And then it's just going to flow right into a 4:30 kickoff for the Bills. I can't wait.
Yeah, it lines up nicely here. The Kings on the road in Carolina against the Hurricanes. The Canes, that one gets rolling here in just over an hour. The Canes are -146 favorites against the Kings, who have lost 8 in a row and are just a point up on the red-hot Oilers right now. The Islanders and the Wild, almost a pick 'em, really. The Minnesota Wild -113 favorites there. That total sits at 6. The Nashville Predators and the Vegas Golden Knights totaling that game at 5.5. The Golden Knights at home -116 favorites. The Avs are on the road in Montreal, -206 favorites on the road there. That total is set at 6.5. But once again, if you just click on the little arrow over at CoolBet, you can move it down to 5.5 if you want, like I believe it was Duck Dad or Richard or somebody in the nasty chat said. And over 5.5 in that game is -157. The Colorado Avalanche might hit that on their own. And then the Philadelphia Flyers and the St. Louis Blues, another tight one here. The Blues -115 favorites. The Flyers -103 dogs. Pat, is there anything on the NHL slate later tonight that you kind of like?
I mean, that Vegas Golden Knights line kind of jumps out to me, and I know the Preds are really starting to heat up, and they've been pretty solid on the road, but -116 at home, like you don't see that very often with the Vegas Golden Knights at home. It's usually -150 or even higher than that some nights, and so I know again, I don't know who's starting. I haven't really done a deep dive.
Yeah, they've been a little banged up, but.
I don't know. They're just a team that, to me, when they're at home, and if you're getting close, like, -116, that's not quite even money, but it's pretty darn close. I tend to want to go with the Golden Knights here.
Logan Thompson is listed as unconfirmed to start right now against UC Saros, who also is listed as unconfirmed. Duck Dad says Eichel is on the IR. I wonder if that has something to do with it. Well, Duck Dad, Eichel being on the IR would certainly have something to do with that line not being as big on the Golden Knights as we would usually look at. Big Uke says, I did hit a 15-leg basketball parlay on the weekend, made up for the football losses. Ooh. Man, 15-leg parlays. What a rush. What a rush. Like, inject that into your veins, man. That is, that's nice. I like that. I like seeing that. Patty, you guys got any exclusives up right now?
Yeah, we've got a few. Let me just quickly bring those up.
Oh, you got quite a bit for the NFL today, yeah.
Yeah, we had a bunch of early NHL and NBA ones. We still have one multi-sport
look at that one.
exclusive up right now. Helping Hands, Jalen Hurts 1+ passing touchdown, RJ Barrett 3+ assists, and Cale Makar 1+ assist. That's at +260. And then our NFL daily exclusives, I'll just rip through a few of them here. Double Trouble, Mason Rudolph and Josh Allen both to throw an interception. I like that one, but Mason Rudolph has not thrown an interception with the Steelers this year. But maybe he's due.
Classic he's due scenario.
+185 for that one. Mr. January, Josh Allen to record 1 passing TD and 1 non-passing TD. So that could be rushing, that could be receiving, basically an anytime touchdown, +230. Dual threat delights, Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts both to record 1+ touchdowns, so non-passing as well, anytime touchdown there. The two-headed monster, Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, both to record 50+ rushing yards at +350. I know I'm a Bills fan. kind of like that one there as well. Fire the cannons. Mike Evans, 1+ touchdown. Rashad White, 70+ rushing yards, and the Bucks to win at +490. Boomer Sooner, Jalen Hurts and Baker Mayfield both record 200 passing yards and 2+ passing TDs. A couple of Oklahoma boys going head-to-head. That's +510. Circle the wagons. James Cook, 1+ touchdown. Stephon Diggs, +60 touchdowns. And the Buffalo Bills to cover the spread at -110. I don't love the number there, but I love the two other props. So if you think the Bills are going to roll, +550 on that one. That's a good one. And then our usual house callers, Stephon Diggs, Devonta Smith, both to record 1+ touchdown, +625. Pretty big number.
That is a pretty big number for two guys who, I mean, can have huge games, right?
And I think that might be worth Smith kind of has he has no choice but to have a big game with Brown being out. So I like that one too.
Quickly over on the NBA front, the Lakers have been struggling mightily. You can get the OKC Thunder tonight on the road at -118 tonight. I don't like to go against the Lake Show, but they've been too hit and miss right now. And the Thunder have some insane talent on that side of the ball. I think this is a line that's just sitting where it is because it's the Lakers. So I like the Thunder tonight at -118 if you want to hop on that one. The Raptors are in action at home. They're +202 underdogs against the Celtics. Before we go, just quickly on the Raptors. Like, since they made the deal, man, what's the buzz like in Toronto? Because I've watched them 2 full games since the trade and then dabbling in other ones. I like the way the group looks, to be honest with you.
They went from being one of the more, I don't want to say hateable because they weren't hateable, but like one of the most Toronto teams, like not just Raptors, like all Toronto sports teams. There's not a lot of juice to them, to a team that's just a lot of fun and a lot of, a team that you're happy to root for. Of course, we know there's going to be pain this year. They're probably not going to make the playoffs, or they'll make the play-in tournament, but they're going to be a team that's going to give you all. RJ Barrett has been really fun to watch. This is a team that I think a lot of people are getting behind. A little bit of a late season push. I could definitely see the city kind of rally around them. But the big thing was just the fact that this team felt like, okay, when is OG getting traded and when is Pascal Siakam getting traded? I think Siakam still may get traded, which is fine, but at least there is now this core behind Siakam and some of the other guys that have been around here for a while that the fans can root behind. And again, it's just a fun team to watch, man. I'll be honest. I'll be fully transparent. Before the trade, there was not a ton of Raptors games that I watched besides maybe the opener and a couple other games. They just weren't a fun team to watch. Now I'm finding even when the Leafs are on or there's a football game on, I'm flipping back and forth watching the Raptors, making sure I don't miss them because they are just a fun team to watch.
I would trade Siakam for a couple more young pieces in that 22, 23, 24 range, probably some bigger bodies if you could, and go from there because I like what they've got with a few of those other guys. They look like they've been pretty good fits. Tommy Gazzola sliding in. Go ahead, Patty.
Oh, I was just going to say, I didn't even mention Emmanuel quickly. Like, that's been like the sneaky great piece of this deal. RJ Barrett, don't get me wrong, pride of Mississauga, hometown boy. Great to have him. But quickly, man, he has been as advertised. A lot of smart basketball writers in the city and bloggers and podcasters were saying, like, RJ's great. Don't get me wrong. That's going to be great. But you guys are going to love quickly. And quickly, the city's fallen in love with this guy as well.
Excellent. That is going to do it for the Lock Shop today. Pat will be back with me tomorrow as Huss continues his journey back from a freezing cold night at Arrowhead. He'll be back on Wednesday. Gazzola's in the Nasty Chat. He's ready to go here coming up on the Oil Stream, which will be starting right away on Edmonton Sports Talk. Patty, we'll talk to you later, buddy. Lock Shoppers, enjoy the football. Good luck, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Go Bill.